Welcome in to, well, I usually say exciting version of Locked On 76ers, but I think we're going to try to match the 76ers energy last night in their 41-point loss to the Orlando Magic. At least Andre Drummond was fun. We'll break it all down and more on this edition of Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we do thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network out there. And this particular episode is brought to you by the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Keith, I believe I was just telling you the other day that I try not to text you during a game. I know you're working. I know you're hustling. I know you're getting the scoops and all that. But I honestly wanted to just check your health last night and make sure you weren't having flashbacks to the process era 76ers, as it was a 41-point loss to the Orlando Magic, where after the first quarter, I will say this, after the first quarter, nothing went right for the Sixers.
Nah, nothing. You talking about the process error. I thought I was looking at the summertime Sixers. I thought maybe they said, yo, we're going to have Tyrese Maxey playing with the summertime Sixers and Drummond. I mean, that's how bad it was. But yeah, it was horrible. Like nothing went right. You know, it was that second quarter that really destroyed them when they were outscored 51-25. But from the gate, like it was weird because I'm looking around. I'm saying to myself, like, dude, they just keep getting layups. They keep scoring at the paint. They keep doing whatever they want. And I believe I looked at one time and I even tapped the guy, Tony Jones, next to me. I said, dude, do you know that they have 23 points? 18 of their points are points in the paint. He was like, man, they just can't stop. Like, you know, they just can't stop ball. And then they ended up with 80 points in the paint. And so we look at it and we say, okay, yeah, Anthony Black came off the bench for Orlando, and he made like 4-6 threes, right?
Yeah.
But when he was making the threes, it was when they were trying to make adjustments to like stopping everybody from going in the paint. And they let, you know, and he was able to just do whatever he wanted. So to me, it was a poor performance, but at the same time, they were without legitimately 4 starters. And,
sure.
And I know, you know what I mean? They were without 4 starters. They had $110 million sitting on the bench in Joel Embiid and Paul George. And you had two-way guys and Jabari Walker and Don Barlow giving their all, hustling. But it's like, okay, you guys aren't making $1 million, but we got $100 million sitting on the bench. So it was rough. It was really rough, Mark, really rough.
So I'm listening to Tyrese Maxey after the game, and he just summed it up with, like, hey, like, what happened? It's like, oh, well, we got spanked. Like, there's no other way. You're going to have days like that in the NBA, unfortunately. If there is a positive to draw out of it, which there's really not, but a lot of times when a team in Philadelphia gets blown out or they look wildly ill-prepared for a game, I won't want any silver linings spoken about by a coach or a player. But after the game, after Maxey said that they just spanked us, he said, yeah, this stuff's going to happen, but if we're being real, that first quarter was pretty good. Now, normally I'd be like, who cares about that first quarter? But this game was so bad, Keith, that you have to understand from the perspective of a player, and you've certainly talked to your fair share of players over the years. From the perspective of a player, you need almost a little nugget to be like, okay, hold on, no. We still belong in the NBA because we were able to do this one thing good for a little bit. But solving the problems the rest of the way, you're not going to do that with the roster that you had last night. And you alluded to the fact that you had $110 million sitting on the bench, and you have a couple of, two-way guys trying to make this somewhat of a game. There's nothing Nick Nurse could have done in last night's game. And Tyrese Maxey going for 70. Other than that, there's nothing else he could have done. This, unfortunately, just looked like it was in the cards last night. Not that it was a scheduled loss or anything like that, but the Magic just had the Sixers number after that first quarter. in everything. Maxey alluded to a shot that kind of rolled around the rim and fell in and early in the game, and he was just like, it's not going to be our night. It was going to be one of those nights. And then in the third quarter, there's another shot. Like, talk about the quadruple doink from Kawhi Leonard years ago. This bounced on the rim like 6 times, and it went in still for the Magic. And I think it was another 3 by Anthony Black, who absolutely went off last night, especially in that second quarter. But you got the feeling early on that this just was not – there's going to be no miraculous fourth quarter push from the Sixers. And Maxey certainly alluded to that. And the other thing that I take that somewhat positive is that, remember, I think, was it the Cavs game that despite a blowout, Nick Nurse had Tyrese Maxey and company in the fourth quarter saying we had to make last year. We still got a lot to dig. We got to dig ourselves out from last year. I was really hoping that Maxey was not going to play in that fourth quarter. He ended up leaving with about a minute and change left in the third quarter and then did not come on the court again. So I give Nick Nurse credit for this time around at least going, oh, yeah, that's a wrap. That's a wrap. We're going to let Tyrese Maxey just take a breather in that fourth quarter.
Yeah. I mean, it was one of those they had to. And it was crazy because I wanted to see how many rebounds Drummond was going to get. Because to me, he was like one of the lone bright spots, but I mean, he shut him down. I mean, he like waved the flag. I mean, because, he had to. Like, these guys are tired. I mean, we look at it. You talk about the injuries, and, you can argue that the injuries, I'm not going to say they contributed to the playing all these minutes contributed to the injuries they have, but the lack of rest sure didn't help them. You know what I'm saying? Right. It didn't make it easier. So, when like you're losing, then the only thing you're going to have Maxey out there playing for, even though he has a couple of days off, is playing for to be in the scoring type. Aside from that, is not going to work. And it wasn't like, it was one of his better games. You know what I mean? So it's like this. Like Maxey said, we got smacked. Just live for another day. I mean, just get it over with. Just live for another day because, I didn't feel like he ended up shooting 7 for 15. He had 20 points. He had 4 assists. I mean, that wasn't one of his better games to me at all.
No, it wasn't. I agree. There's what was it? Oh, there was. I think it was something along the lines Maxey said post game. It was like, we didn't have it tonight. They really got after us. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Like, it was some kind of weird transition like that. And it was like, yeah, they just want to get the hell out of the building and flush this one, because that's actually what Maxey did go on to say also. Flush this one, move on. Happy Thanksgiving. See you later. You got the Nets coming up later on. One thing I will ask you about, because I see people asking about this in the chat, about Nick Nurse and job security and all that. There was one shot they got on TV last night, Keith, that did make me think, like, is Nick Nurse's job in jeopardy? Because first off, let's just look at the team last night. They were so unbelievably unprepared to play that basketball game. That's what it looked like to me. And then you want to look at coaching for that. Despite talent and lack of it, you still want to look at coaching and be like, what's going on here? But there was one point in last night's game where I thought about whether or not Nick Nurse's job is safe. And that point was, I think it was another Anthony Black 3, and the camera cuts to Nick Nurse on the bench. And the best word I can use to describe what Nick Nurse looked like and his facial expression, it was bewilderment. It was it was the look of someone who was totally lost and didn't know what to do. When you look at a team and see them play the way they played last night, how much do you look at the head coach? And do you think that Nick Nurse's seat is going from, maybe lukewarm to a little hot?
I mean, I think all their seats, if they don't get this thing together, I think all of their seats are going to be hot, right?
Morey included?
Morey included. Yeah. But when you also look at it, it's two things. Like you look at it, and there's always that excuse. Well, I didn't have 4 starters who played.
Right.
Well, you look at my reserves. My 2 of my most dependable players were 2 of them were two-way guys. The other one was Jared McCain trying to get himself back together again. Oh, another guy I had on the bench was another guy who played well, was Justin Edwards, another former two-way guy. You know what I mean? Undrafted player. So, you know, when that happens, it's kind of sort of, you know, Nick Nurse could get a little bit of an alibi. But the thing is, when we look at it, we look at the performance, and then you can argue, and I could say, we're not going to say that. I don't know if these injuries if this playing time contributed to it, but someone can make an argument that it did, right? Or that they feel like it did,
yeah.
Right? Because we're talking about Kelly Oubre, we're talking about VJ Edgecombe, you know, these two guys. But then here's something else. The way that they just scored on them at will, and the Sixers looked like they had no answers. This isn't the first time that has happened. It happened the second game of the season when, you know, Paul George didn't play, Trendon Watford didn't play, nor did Jared McCain, but all their defensive guys did play, right? So, you know, it's to me, it's like, is this a trend? Is this defense just horrible, awful? Are you just giving up so much? You know, and then what happens? Like, what's up with these second and third quarters? You know what I mean? Like, why are you guys just getting drilled?
Right.
Like, what is it? Are you not making the proper adjustments? So, you know, even though he can come back and say, hey, look, we lost by 41, but my guys weren't there. But people can say, but yeah, coach, but this stuff has been happening for a while. The margin of defeat was just wider because you didn't have them. And here's something else, Mark, we got to talk about. They lost 8 of 13 games since starting the season 4-0.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, dude, that's bad. I mean, that's bad.
Yeah. That's pretty terrible. I know I mentioned something that was positive from last night, or at least what Maxie alluded to as positive. There's one more personal thing that I have that was positive last night. I think you know what that is. We'll talk about that when we return. This is Locked On 76ers and the Locked On 76ers YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. And how about the Game Time app? I think the Sixers have better games than what we saw last night. So if you want to go to a game, make sure you guys take advantage of the Game Time app, as the NBA season very much upon us, and nothing really beats being at the arena for those big games down in South Philadelphia or anywhere, really. Maybe a concert, maybe a comedy show, a venue like that. To take in a show like that would be great. That's where the Game Time app comes in. Game Time gives the advantage to fans. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NBA tickets, easy and stress-free, as well as fast. Their zone deals are a real game changer. You pick the section, Game Time picks your seats, and you save big. You can even find NBA tickets for under $25. What? Yes! Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase with the Game Time app. Swipe, tap, ticket, go on the Game Time app. All right, this is for the people on the podcast. I'm sorry, this is going to be very visual here. Who am I, Keith? Who am I? Come on now.
Drummond. Yeah, Andre Drummond squaring up. Knuckle up. Guard your grill.
Now, in my mind, in my mind, I'm like, oh, he's just, I don't know if it was a hockey mentality or whatever, but I'm like, oh, he's just trying to get him going. He's just trying to. He was so exaggerated with the put your dukes up that I'm like, he's just trying to put the quarter in the machine here to get something going. And then after the game, I see the quotes from Andre Drummond. It's exactly what he was doing. Yeah. He squares up with Wendell Carter. And actually, I mean, if you're telling me Jalen Suggs is not playing, then I'm happy. I would like to say that it helped the Sixers, but obviously it didn't. It made it more enjoyable for people down there at the arena. Maybe people that purchased tickets through the Game Time app. I don't know. But I loved it. I absolutely loved seeing that from Andre Drummond, just trying to light something. to get the Sixers going last night.
Yeah, it was funny, man. Like, and I'm gonna read the quote in a second, but like, here's the deal. So Drummond, the whole thing was funny because like in the NBA, it's not like hockey. Like hockey,
Right.
When those dudes fight, they trying to fight. Like they just getting it in. Like when you fall to the ground, they break it up. The NBA is typically a lot of, you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna get in your head, but nobody's really trying to swing, right? So to me, when Drummond did that, and Wendell Carter, like, he put his dukes up, squared up the Wendell, and Wendell was like, "What you gonna do? You ain't gonna do nothing. You ain't gonna do nothing. You ain't gonna do nothing." So to me, it was like, all right, they just gonna break this up. And then all of a sudden, Jalen Suggs didn't get the script that like the NBA, they don't really fight. So he just comes over all late and then shoves Drummond. And then Jabari Walker looks and says, "Oh man, now I gotta do something." So then he goes after Suggs. And then you thought it was straight out of wrestling, right? Because when Suggs leaves the court, he's like, to the crowd. I'm like, yo, what's going on here? What are we doing? What are we doing? But it was crazy. But you're right. So at that particular time, they were down 82 to 58. Drummond thought by him doing that basically he could ignite his teammates, right? And he admitted that it got back.
Nothing else is working. Why not?
Yeah, he like, hey, like, because he said he looked at the scoreboard. He said, "Look, I had to stop the bleeding, man. They went on a crazy run. For me, if you can see me, I looked up at the score and I was like, man, this expletive is nasty." Now, he might say, SHIT. He said, "I got to do something." And I was just like effing with him, right? And he reacted. So I was like, okay, I got to capitalize it. I'm one of those players who do anything dirty. So once he said, I'm not one of those players who does do anything dirty. So once I did what I had to do, I was clapping because I got the reaction I was looking for. I got somebody thrown out, hoping it would get us going a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. He said, still ended losing by 30 plus. So it wasn't one of those nights for us. Got to learn from it, watch film, and move on to the next one. So that was hilarious. But it was crazy, man, because it was just like it was something out of like WWE back in the day. You know what I mean? Like wrestling. It was crazy.
I thought I was watching it. I thought it was like a movie. It felt like a movie, like something weird that turns the team around in one of them sports movies, Yeah. And I was like, I don't see this being the rallying point for the Sixers, but being that I have to watch a whole other half of this game, I want it to be. And two things that I noticed from it. One, Drummond was really pumped up that it absolutely worked. Jalen Suggs gets thrown out, and you're right. He's like clapping and smiling and all that stuff. And then the other thing is they make the announcement of the double techs and Jalen Suggs getting thrown out. And when they announced that Suggs is on the bench there for the Magic and he throws a yes, he goes like, yes. And then he leaves. And I'm like, what was he trying to take the rest of the night off? Is he like, oh, my team's got this, I don't need to play anyway, I'm out of here? But it was a weird sequence that I do give Andre Drummond credit for, because like Nick Nurse, there was no button he was going to push to get it going. Like Tyrese Maxey, unfortunately, wasn't going to be going off in this game. Jared McCain, again, I thought looked a little smoother again last night. Not great by any means. Nobody looked great, but there was nobody that was going to save this. So a desperate act, which is exactly what it was from Andre Drummond, is one that was at least a good try. It was a really good try. And I think anybody that has played basketball at any level, Drummond knew exactly what to do against Wendell Carter. Grabbing the jersey of somebody in the back constantly and just kind of like little nudging, you know what that guy's doing. And that can get the wheel going in the head in a negative direction. And Wendell Carter, I'll give him credit. He didn't take it to the next level. He just kind of stood up for himself like, dude, come on, like knock it off. And that's what Drummond went with the put your dukes up, man. And I wish it would have worked at all for the Sixers, but all it really did was give fans down there at the arena a little something extra to enjoy. And that's the way I saw it.
You're 100% right. But dude, the fans at the arena, man, that was crazy. So like, dude, so the first, because The game before Thanksgiving is typically one of the most attended games around the NBA, right? And the reason being is because you got a lot of people home for like the holidays and whatnot. That's a real moneymaker. But they was in the first quarter, they were like, yo, okay. Second quarter, it was like early on when Nick Nurse called that first time out, you heard the boos. Now, the funny thing is for people who are new to going to Sixers games now, after they got booed mercifully in that playoff game against the Knicks, whenever they get booed, especially on what they do is they play loud music. So they try to drown it out. So it was loud as I don't know what in there. But after every break, after whatever, the fans were booing. Now get this. At the end of the third quarter, it was kind of like, yo, I got to go home and like maybe cook the turkey a day early or something, or like just get out of the parking lot. It was a lot of people leaving, but the Bluebirds were out. It was crazy. Like you heard a couple "Let's Go Magic" chants. It was like, it was bad. It was bad. It was really bad. It was really bad.
Boy, oh boy. All right. When we come back, there was some bad news that could affect the near future of the Sixers as the injured list looks like it's growing. We'll talk about that when we return. This is Locked On 76ers on the Locked On Sixers YouTube channel. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Back after this. Now it's time to tell you about DripDrop. Wednesday before Thanksgiving, party time for a lot of people, also known as amateur night. You want to stay hydrated, but you also want to stay energetic. DripDrop is where it's at. My focus, my energy, my mood, even my skin tone's better when I use DripDrop, when I drink DripDrop. It's a doctor-developed hydration that keeps running on full power no matter what my day looks like. You need the energy for the holidays as well. You need to stay hydrated for all the family and friends coming over. DripDrop isn't your average sports drink. It delivers 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands using a science-backed formula trusted by medical professionals, firefighters even, and over 90% of top college and pro teams, that is. Actually, it tastes amazing as well, so that's an extra added benefit. Hydration has become non-negotiable for me. DripDrop helps me feel sharper, calmer, and honestly, just overall better. Right now, DripDrop is offering podcast listeners and our viewers 20% off your first order. So head to DripDrop.com. That's DripDrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA. Promo code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard this summer. Keep your body and mind performing at their best with DripDrop. Then head to DripDrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA. Keith Pompey, how concerned should I be with Trendon Watford and the adductor injury strain that he suffered last night after playing only 11 minutes in the embarrassment to the Magic?
I would be concerned. Because, I mean, like, that's just like, okay, I looked it up, and I think a grade 1 is anywhere from like 1 to 3 weeks. So you're kind of hoping that that's what it is. But at the same time, we remember, Paul George had that injury last year that he was dealing with the adductor strain, or something wrong with him. And he just kind of had a tough time blowing by people when he came back. So with that being said, and depending on the severity of it, it could be a lot longer, right? Because it's different grades. Here's the thing. When he fell down, it didn't look good. I mean, he was dribbling up the court, going 100 miles an hour. Then he just as he tries to throw the ball past the ball, because you could tell he knew he couldn't go. It's as if his leg gave out and he's grabbing the inner leg, and then he just falls to the court. And next thing you know, they just get him off the court and walk off, right? Mm-hmm. You knew he wasn't coming back. So to me, with everything that's going on right now, like, you got Paul George missing games, he's probable, and then he's not playing. You have Barlow with the elbow, but he is playing. But all these other injuries, and we look at Watford, who basically was stepping up and playing extremely well the last couple games. And to me, this is another big blow. Now again, hopefully they're hoping that maybe it could be 1 to 3 weeks, maybe, right? But even still, it's like, look at all the other guys you have that's out. Now you got to go with Janai Broom, a rookie. So it's kind of it's rough, man. It's rough. It's really rough.
How does that happen with? Let's go to Paul George here. How does that happen? Where you see a guy come out probable, and then he's not playing. Joel Embiid. Would say that again?
It's not supposed to happen that way. Like it's not like that's really unheard of. Like unless a guy says to you, if unless a guy says to you, hey, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to play, right? And then you say, okay, I'm gonna make him probable. And then right before the game, he comes out and says, oh man, I can't make it. But now you don't typically go from probable to out. Now, maybe you could go from probable, then later on to questionable, then to doubtful, this and that. But you rarely see it happen that way. And the whole Joel thing was like just crazy. It's like ridiculous. Like, think about it. When we talked about it, I asked Nick Nurse and I said, hey, like, what is it going to take? Oh, the doctor. Was he a full participant in practice? He was yesterday, or he was today. Okay, well, how does he look? Oh, he looks good, right? And then, I didn't go to shoot around yesterday, but the people who were at shoot around said that, he had the blue jersey on that says that he's a starter, right? Drummond had one on too, but that could have been because, it was like, what are we going to do? And then also Drummond's going to get in and play some reps or whatever. But then all of a sudden it's like, he ain't playing. Well, how come? Well, he's not there yet. He needs more time. Well, so, the only thing that makes you, if this was an organization where there was a lot of transparency, I think we would say, well, Joel just didn't feel well. But when it's a Sixers organization that's been fined for being lack of transparent on injury reports, every time they come up with something like that, people are always like, what's going on? Like, what's really going on, And I don't know. It just looks bad. It really does, because, both of these guys were supposed to play and they didn't. And here's the crazy thing about this, Mark. So you look at it. Last year, Joel Embiid played in 4 games through 17 games. He played in 6. And you might say, okay, well, you know what? It's improvement. But he missed the last 8. So it's no improvement, right? And then you look at Paul George, and you say to yourself, dag, PG, last year, I mean, you like hyperextended your knee twice, 2 bone bruises, but you still were able to play in 8 games at this particular time. You've only played in 3. And now this one is because of an ankle injury, right? So, it is one of those things like where, to me, it's no different than last year. It really is. Like, you got these 2 teams. The only thing is they started off 4-0. Since then, they won 5-8. But they started off 4-0. But it's like you look at it and you say to yourself, these guys aren't playing. They weren't playing last year. Now, the injuries might not be as severe, but at the same time, it's like they're not out there helping the team. And we look at it, and that goes back to the two-way players and everything else that you have to depend on to carry a team, when, that's not their role. That's not their role.
Yeah, I just we'll get more into it tomorrow. We are going live tomorrow for you wonderful people. We'll get more into it tomorrow about just the overall feel of this season, because it is starting to feel a whole hell of a lot like last year, unfortunately. We'll get into that. Keith Pompey, make sure you guys are reading on
Summertime Sixers, though.
Summertime Sixers, yeah. Make sure you guys are reading Keith Pompey, Inquirer.com. We do thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, now the #1 podcast network out there. Sports podcast network out there. by the way. Also, make sure you guys check out Locked On Fantasy Basketball with our man Josh Lloyd. He breaks it all down for you to help you win your league and also make you the smarter NBA fan. Find Locked On Fantasy Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 podcast network, sports podcast network out there. Your team every day. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Keith, there's the link there for Keith's article. Make sure you guys check that out. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Locked On 76ers. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow. See you then.